It was supposed to be a perfect wedding anniversary trip for my husband and me. We had been looking forward to this getaway for months, planning every detail. After doing thorough research, we booked a stay at a luxury hotel that was renowned for its hospitality and elegance. The moment we arrived, we were filled with excitement, but little did we know that our dream trip would quickly turn into a nightmare. Up until that point, the hotel had a stellar reputation. It was genuinely wonderful, a place where guests felt pampered and cared for. But everything changed about a year ago when the founder passed away. His inexperienced young son took over the hotel, and his wife became the assistant manager. Unfortunately, they lacked the necessary training to run such a prestigious establishment. The founder's wife tried to guide them, but her daughter-in-law refused to listen. This tension led to an even greater divide. The new assistant manager began to harass the staff who had grown fond of the founder's wife. The elderly woman, already struggling with her health, was heartbroken at her inability to train her daughter-in-law properly. As time passed, she showed up to work less and less, leaving the hotel in the hands of the untrained couple. With their management, the hotel's charm and attentiveness began to vanish. Complaints started pouring in, but the couple ignored them. At first, the issues were small, like a lack of elegance or rude interruptions. But soon, the problems escalated. The hotel, which catered primarily to VIP guests, didn't receive much direct feedback, likely because many were too polite or intimidated to voice their complaints. Desperate to save their sinking business, the new managers devised a shocking strategy. They began room swapping, allowing a few regular customers to book VIP rooms, but only if they agreed to switch to less desirable accommodations. They charged both the VIPs and regular customers, pocketing extra cash in the process. This disgraceful tactic showed their complete lack of understanding about running a hotel. As we settled into our room, we immediately noticed it did not match the lavish photos online. Instead of the opulence we expected, the space felt cramped and poorly maintained. I felt a wave of disappointment wash over me, but I decided to let it slide for the moment, hoping the rest of our stay would be better. However, our hopes were dashed when the assistant manager made an unexpected appearance. She burst into our room, unannounced, demanding payment for our stay, even though we had already settled the bill at check-in. Her tone was aggressive, and her attitude left us feeling uneasy. This wasn't the warm welcome we had anticipated for our special occasion. I tried to reason with her, but she dismissed our concerns and stormed out. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was very wrong with the management of this hotel. Despite my growing unease, we tried to enjoy our anniversary dinner in the hotel restaurant that night, but the service was slow, and the food was underwhelming. We overheard other guests grumbling about their experiences, and it became clear we were not the only ones dissatisfied. After dinner, I decided to document our experience, taking pictures of the room and the dinner menu. I wanted to have a record in case we needed to raise complaints later. My daughter, a budding photographer, joined me. She had a knack for capturing moments, and I knew her instincts could help us show the truth of our situation. The next day, I reached out to the hotel management to express our concerns formally. To my shock, I received a voicemail from the assistant manager threatening to kick us out if we didn't comply with her demands. My heart raced as I listened to the recording. I knew we had to take action, and I felt a growing determination to stand up against the mistreatment. Fortunately, my daughter's keen eye had already captured multiple angles of our experience. The assistant manager's threatening voicemail became valuable evidence of their misconduct. I shared this information with some friends who had worked in journalism, and they suggested I approach a consumer protection agency. After gathering all the evidence, including the photos and the voicemail, I felt empowered. It was time to take a stand. Armed with our documentation, I approached the Consumer Protection Agency, ready to fight for justice not only for ourselves, but for all the guests mistreated by the hotel. Shortly after our complaint was filed, things began to change. Articles began appearing in local magazines about the hotel's decline. The response was overwhelming. Celebrities who had once frequented the hotel began to speak out, sharing their disappointing experiences. The hotel's reputation was crumbling, and I felt a mix of satisfaction and disbelief. With every article published, the pressure on the hotel intensified. More and more guests began to come forward with their own horror stories, and it was clear the new management had made a mess of things. The once proud establishment was now in a free fall, and I couldn't help but feel responsible for playing a part in this unraveling. Then came the call I had been anticipating. The assistant manager reached out, her voice dripping with rage. "How dare you publish such lies?" she shouted. I calmly responded, "You brought this on yourselves." She continued to berate me, but I remained composed, knowing that I held the power of evidence in my hands. The assistant manager's fury only fueled my determination. I realized I was not just fighting for our own experience, but for all those who had suffered at the hands of their incompetence. The moment I mentioned the Consumer Protection Agency's involvement, I could hear her panic rising. As the articles continued to circulate, the hotel's management tried to push back, but it was too late. A second article was released, detailing the extent of the assistant manager's bullying behavior. It included audio clips of our conversations, showcasing her threatening demeanor and revealing the truth about her lack of professionalism. News outlets picked up the story, further exposing the hotel's mismanagement. The assistant manager's childish responses made it clear that they had underestimated the impact of our evidence. As she lashed out in a desperate attempt to salvage her reputation, I couldn't help but feel a surge of satisfaction. Despite her pleas, I made it clear that once an article is published, it cannot be retracted. She was beginning to realize the weight of her actions, and as her frustration grew, I felt a sense of justice in the air. I knew I had to stay strong for everyone who had been wronged by the hotel. Weeks went by, and as the dust settled, the hotel faced a reckoning. A class action lawsuit was filed against them, and the atmosphere was tense. I had seen this journey through from the very beginning, and I felt a mix of emotions as the investigation continued. Would the hotel finally be held accountable for their actions? Months later, the news broke that the hotel had officially closed its doors. The management team's incompetence had led to their downfall. I felt a bittersweet sense of victory, knowing we had played a role in bringing about this change. My husband and daughter were proud of the stand we had taken, and I couldn't help but reflect on the lessons we had learned along the way. To celebrate our hard-fought victory, my daughter planned a new trip for us to a different luxury hotel. This time, she wanted to ensure we had the perfect experience. We were all excited and hopeful, ready to create new memories without the shadows of our previous experience hanging over us. When we arrived at the new hotel, we were greeted with genuine warmth and hospitality. The staff was attentive, and the atmosphere was everything we had dreamed of for our anniversary. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to move on from the difficulties we had faced. As we settled in, I noticed how much my daughter had grown throughout this journey. Her passion for photography had blossomed, and she was eager to capture every moment of our new adventure. It reminded me of how resilient we had become as a family, and I was grateful for the bond we had forged through our trials. Reflecting on the past year, I realized that life is a journey filled with unexpected twists and turns. The challenges we faced taught us the importance of standing up for ourselves and advocating for what is right. It reminded us that resilience and unity can help us overcome even the toughest obstacles. With our new hotel experience behind us, I felt a renewed sense of hope. Our daughter was planning to start a family of her own, and I couldn't help but dream of all the future trips we would take together. Life was moving forward, and I was excited for what lay ahead. As we sat down to enjoy our anniversary dinner at the new hotel, I raised a glass to my family. To new beginnings and unforgettable memories, I declared. We toasted to the lessons learned and the brighter future ahead of us, knowing we would face whatever came our way together. After all, life is a journey, and no matter what happens, we would keep standing up, resilient, and determined to navigate through it all. So, where to next?